Great. I'm going to start. Hello, my name is Crystal Rosa, and I am the Language Access Manager for the City of Cambridge. We will begin interpretation shortly. First, I will be providing instruction on how to connect to your language when we start the function. Samuel, go ahead.
Et bonjour et bienvenue dans la réunion ça. Tout d'abord, je vais vous montrer comment nous utiliser fonction qui permettent que vous choisissez langue côté quoi je moi-même qui a interprété pour vous.
Saida, go ahead.
হ্যালো, আমার নাম সাইদা মোহাম্মদ বেগম, আমি বাঙালি ইন্টারপ্রেটার। আমরা এখন কিছুক্ষণের মধ্যে এটা শুরু হয়ে যাবে। কিভাবে করতে হয় এখন শুধু সেটা আমরা দেখতেছি কিভাবে শুরু করা যায়।
Hola, buenas tardes. La persona que está presentándose se llama Crystal Rosa. Su título es Administradora de Acceso de Idiomas para la Ciudad de Cambridge. Ahora vamos a dar información sobre cómo conectar a su idioma.
Marlise, next slide, please. Thank you. We will start in simultaneous interpretation at the end of the slides. When we start the function, please click on the globe symbol at the right corner of your screen. Select the option for language you speak. Example, if you want to listen to the presentation in English, you need to select English.
Comment pour faire une interprétation créole? Pour jouer une interprétation créole, cliquez sur le symbole globe là en bas à droite dans le coin de l'écran, sélectionnez option langue ou parler qui c'est créole haïtien, haïtien créole, et puis qu'on soit besoin de moi-même Samuel Milis qui a interprété pour vous. Merci et bienvenue dans la session.
আপনার স্ক্রিনের নিচে ডান দিকে কোণায় গ্লোব প্রতীকটি টিপুন। আপনি যে ভাষায় কথা বলেন সেই তার জন্য বিকল্পটি নির্বাচন করুন। যদি আপনি ইংরেজিতে শুনতে চান প্রেজেন্টেশন তাহলে ইংলিশ ওই বাটনটা চাপ দিন।
Hola, para la interpretación en la computadora, si quieren escuchar el español, lo que tienen que hacer es hacer clic o impulsar el globo que está ubicado en la esquina derecha al pie de la página o de la pantalla. Seleccione la opción para la lengua que usted quiera. Gracias.
The interpretation button will change into the language you select. So that's what will happen when we start the slides. Samuel?
Interprétation là commencer, interprétation pour changer kounya, tout à l'heure, c'est comme ça que nous commençons avec ça, ou va jouer une option pour jouer un interprète qui traduit pour.
ইন্টারপ্রিটেশন বাটনটি আপনি নির্বাচিত ভাষা পরিবর্তন করুন। যখন ওয়েবিনারটা শুরু হবে তখন আপনি ওই ভাষায় শুনতে পাবেন।
El botón Interpretation cambiará al idioma que seleccione.
If you're using a smartphone, you will need to click on the 3 dots at the bottom right corner of your screen.
Si vous utilisez un téléphone intelligent, à savoir un smartphone, cliquez sur 3 points qui sont dans le coin en bas droite dans l'écran là, et puis qu'on soit capable de joindre une option pour capable joindre moi-même qui vais interpréter pour.
যদি আপনি স্মার্টফোন ইউজ করেন তাহলে 3টি ডট যে ইয়েটা আছে সেটা আপনি ডান দিকে ওই বাটনটা প্রেস করবেন।
Si ustedes están llamando usando un teléfono, van a ver 3 puntitos a la parte derecha del teléfono. En la esquina deben impulsar en eso para buscar la lengua que necesitan.
Select the option with the globe symbol.
Sélectionnez option qui est symbole globe là.
গ্লোব চিহ্ন সহ বিকল্পটি নির্বাচন করুন।
Seleccione la opción con el símbolo del globo.
And then select your language and press done in the top right corner.
Sélectionnez langue ou, pese sous done en lait à droite dans le écran et puis prend Asian Creole Creole haïtien.
আপনি আপনার ভাষা নির্বাচন করুন এবং ডান যে ওয়ার্ডটা আছে ওটাতে প্রেস করুন।
Seleccione su lengua, y después presione done en la parte arriba o superior de la esquina del teléfono en la pantalla.
Everyone must select a language. I'm going to start the interpretation function in a second or two. Please select English if you need to hear the presentation in English.
Tout le monde doit choisir une langue.
সবাইকে ভাষা নির্বাচন করতে হবে, কিন্তু যদি আপনি ইংরেজিতে শুনতে চান প্রেজেন্টেশন তাহলে ইংলিশ বাটনটা প্রেস করবেন।
Todos deben seleccionar un idioma y después vamos a empezar.
So I'm going to give everyone a couple seconds to find that globe button, select your language, and my interpreters will also be selecting a language. And as soon as we'll just give a few seconds, we'll move on to the next slide. If you are listening, and I encourage you to play with the channels and select any language you want, but if you hear an interpreter while you're trying to listen to English, it's because you have not selected English as your language. So please select English. So Marlise, you can go to the next slide, please. The chat box is only available to help troubleshoot if there are issues with the interpretation. Those chats will only go to the panelists and myself. If you want to submit a question during the presentation, you should hover over the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. To ask a question, type your question into the QA box. The panelists will get to the questions at the end of the presentation to make sure everyone can understand the questions. If you do not want your name attached to your question, make sure you check the box, send anonymously. We will provide resources in the follow-up email after the presentation. And just, I can hear an interpreter. I believe the interpreter needs to select the language. It should be on your screen. I'll wait until. Yes, so if I think my Bangla interpreter is now in their channel. Okay, so I'll go on. I just want to give a friendly reminder to our panelists to speak slowly because we do have interpreters working with us today. And please use the chat only to troubleshoot interpretation and I will help you. Now I'm going to hand it over to Maria Mello, the director of the Multi-Service Center. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maria Mello. I am the director of the Multi-Service Center. Thank you, Crystal, for sending it over to me. I will be your moderator for this panel. Welcome, everyone. Today's panel discussion is entitled Cambridge Food Pantries, a healthy resource for wholesome food. Today's panel is part of Housed in Cambridge, an Information to Open Doors campaign, a collaboration with the City Manager's Office, the Community Development Department, the Human Rights Commission, and the Department of Human Service Programs, which includes the Multi-Service Center. Housed in Cambridge is a multi-department outreach, education, and information campaign that is designed to promote and inform residents about all things housing and related resources and services. So please share this information with your family and friends and neighbors and stay connected through the city's websites and social media platforms, and watch out for upcoming panels. And let us know what you think would be important to have as a panel or to discuss and hear about. Again, I'm gonna mention that the question and answer feature is available to ask questions, and that questions will be answered at the end. So I am now going to introduce our presenters today. Tina Alou, the Executive Director of the Cambridge Economic Opportunities Committee, and Rachel Plummer, Director of Programs and Public Policy, also with the Cambridge Economic Opportunities Committee. You may also know the acronym as, or that I'm familiar with, which is the CEOC. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Rachel and Tina.
Right. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today to learn a little bit more about food pantries in Cambridge, which are a great resource for healthy and wholesome food. Next slide, please. So if you've never been to a food pantry before, you might not know what it is yet. So a food pantry is a resource that's open for the community where people in need can get food for their households. So you can get all different types of food, which I'll talk about in the next slide, but you can see some pictures here on the screen. And each pantry works a little bit differently, but they all have the same idea, which is free food for people who need it. The pictures here that you'll see are of CEOC's food pantry in North Cambridge on Ringe Ave. And in this type of pantry, it sort of looks like a grocery store where you see food on the shelves. So you'll come into our building. When it's your turn to go, you'll come right back into these rooms and choose your own food off of the shelves, kind of like you would in a grocery store. At some pantries, you'll receive a big bag of food that's already packaged up for you. And at other pantries, you might see a display table with the different food options on it. And you let the volunteers know which food you want to take home with you that day. So like I said, each pantry is a little bit different. So you can go to them and try them out and see how they all work for you. You can go to the next slide, please. So you can get all sorts of different foods at the food pantry, and each food pantry offers slightly different items, and week to week, you might get different food items. You might see different types of vegetables at the pantry this week than you would next week. For the most part, though, you'll often see different types of meat and fish. So things like beef, chicken, salmon, you name it. You'll also possibly see dairy items. So milk, eggs, cheese. You can also get canned and non-perishable food at all of the food pantries. So think of foods like canned fruits and vegetables, beans, soups, pasta and pasta sauce, things like that. And then finally, most pantries in Cambridge also have lots of fresh fruits and vegetables. You might see things like corn on the cob, bell peppers, broccoli, lettuce, avocados. And like I said, it might change week to week, but all of this is available to you as a free resource. At most pantries, you can go to them as often as you need to, but at some of them, you might only be able to go a certain amount of times per week or per month. So it's best to check with the individual food pantry about what policies they have in place. Next slide, please. So because the food is free that you get at the food pantry, you can save a lot of money by doing your shopping at the food pantry, sort of as a supplement to what you might get at the grocery store. So last year, we took a look at what we were offering at our CEOC pantry, and we compared that to what that same package of food would cost if you went and bought it at the grocery store. So what we found was what we were giving out for free would cost you between $35 and $52 if you were to go and buy it at the grocery store. So each week, that's a lot of money that you can be saving if you come and visit the food pantries. And you might even be saving more money than this because prices of food have gone up so much recently. And next slide, please. The food pantries are located all over Cambridge. This map shows where some of them are located. You can see a lot of them in the Central Square and Cambridge Port area, and our food pantry up in North Cambridge. And on the next slide, I'll show you how you can find out the exact addresses and when food pantries are open. Next slide, please. So the Cambridge Public Health Department has a food resource guide, which is a guide available to you that's updated with all of the Cambridge food pantries, their hours of operation, and their locations. This food resource guide also has a lot of other really helpful information that's available to you about getting food in Cambridge. So you should definitely check it out. I believe it will be sent to you after this webinar. And if you go to the next slide, you will see some more information about the pantries. So this is the page in the food resource guide about food pantries in Cambridge and where they're located and their hours of operation. So when you look at the food resource guide after this webinar, you'll see this a little bit bigger, but there are 10 food pantries listed. Between all 10 of them, there's one open on every day of the week except for Sunday. So there's always a place where you're able to find food. And this includes the hours of operation and the address as well. Next slide, please. So we want to transition now to talking a little bit about a project that we worked on this summer. So food pantries are designed to serve our clients. So input and feedback is super important to us. We always want to make sure we're operating in a way that works best for our clients. So this summer, we wanted to know what types of foods pantry clients were most requesting at the food pantries. So over the course of a couple of months this summer, we surveyed 156 pantry clients at 7 different food pantries in Cambridge. And we did the survey in 8 different languages. And the first question that we asked folks was, what type of vegetables do you most want to be getting at the food pantry? We had a list of different types of vegetables with pictures of the vegetables. So people would click on which vegetables were their favorites that they wanted to be seeing at the food pantries. So if this were a normal Zoom meeting, I would ask you to put in the chat what you would expect these results to be. But instead, I want you to just think for a moment about your own favorite vegetables and what you might expect this survey results to be about what food pantry clients wanted to see most in the vegetable category. And you can go to the next slide, please. So these were the results. These were the top 5 most commonly requested vegetables at our food pantries. The number 1 most requested was corn on the cob, followed by broccoli, tomatoes, bell peppers, and then asparagus. So for me personally, when I saw these results, I was actually kind of surprised that broccoli was the number 2 requested vegetable. Broccoli was not something that we typically stocked at the CEOC pantry. So this was really helpful information to have. Now we know, okay, a lot of people want to have broccoli at the pantry. They want to take that home to their families. So now we've started getting broccoli just about every week because of this feedback. So it was super helpful for us to start changing the things that we order to make sure we're best serving our clients. You can go to the next slide, please. The second question that we asked was about favorite fruits and what fruits people wanted to see most at the food pantries. So again, think a little bit about what you might expect people to say as their most desired fruits. And we can go to the next slide. So again, here are the results from the fruit question. Bananas, just about everyone I spoke with wanted to get bananas. And then we have strawberries, oranges, cherries, and grapes. So again, bananas are something that a lot of food pantries get already, but things like berries and cherries and grapes are not so much. So again, this was super helpful information to us. Start thinking about if these results are surprising to you or unexpected, and maybe put your thoughts or questions in the Q&A box for us to take a look at later. You can go to the next slide, please. So the third question was about what pantry staples do you want to see most at the food pantries? Pantry staples are those non-perishable foods that you might just have on your shelf in your kitchen. So think about what you might expect here, and we can go to the next slide. So this is what people wanted to see in their pantry, in their fridge. So eggs, again, just like bananas, just about everyone I talked to wanted eggs. And that was not surprising to me because I know I go through a lot of eggs as well. We also see peanut butter, milk, nuts, and beans. So these were the 5 most commonly requested foods in that pantry staples category. And next slide, please. We had one more question that we asked people, and that was about what herbs and spices and other seasonings do you want to get at the pantries? What spices do you cook with at home? And this one was a really important question for us because spices are really expensive for getting it at the grocery store, but also for pantries to stock on their shelves. So we want to make sure that if we're able to get herbs and spices, we want to be getting the best herbs and spices that people are actually wanting. So if you go to the next slide, we can see those results. The number one, by and large, spice that people wanted was cinnamon, even more so than salt and pepper, which was number 2. You'll also see basil in the number 3 spot, and then cayenne pepper and oregano. So cinnamon was surprising to me. You know, everyone uses kind of different herbs and spices in their own cooking. So it was not one that would have been my number 1 choice. So it was so interesting that it was the most requested spice at our pantry. And we've actually been able to get a little bit of cinnamon in our North Cambridge pantry. So the Curios Spice Shop sold us some beautiful cinnamon that they had in stock. And the feedback we got from patrons who were visiting our pantry was so positive. It flew off the shelves. So definitely was a highly desired item. Next slide, please. So those are the results from the survey related to food pantries. But aside from food pantries, there are a lot of ways to get food in Cambridge when you are in need. Some of this is in the food resource guide that's got a ton of information in it. And the one that I want to highlight here is called SNAP. And SNAP used to be called food stamps, and it stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Basically, SNAP is a program that you apply for, and if you're eligible, you get money every month on an EBT debit card, and that money can be spent on food at the grocery store, at corner stores and convenience stores, and at farmers markets. The food resource guide, again, has a list of vendors in Cambridge that accept SNAP dollars. So if you have a question about whether or not your favorite store takes SNAP, you can look in that food resource guide. The amount of money that you get each month in SNAP depends on how big your household is, how many people you have in your family, and it depends on your income. So you could get anywhere from $10 or so a month up to $250 for a single person, or $835 for a family of 4. That's the maximum amount that you can get. If you don't already have SNAP and you think you might be eligible, CEOC can help individuals and families apply for SNAP and see if you're eligible. So if you or someone you know needs to apply for SNAP or even recertify your benefits, please stop by CEOC and see us. We can definitely help with that. And our contact information will be on the last slide of the presentation. You can click next. A really cool way that you can use your SNAP benefits, as I mentioned, is at farmers markets. And you can actually get some additional SNAP money when you shop at farmers markets. So farmers markets in Cambridge have 2 different programs where you can get extra money if you have SNAP dollars. One of them is called SNAP Match, which is only available at the Central Square Farmers Market and the Harvard Farmers Market in Cambridge. And SNAP Match allows you to get $15 extra each time you visit the farmers market. And you can spend those $15 extra dollars on whatever you'd like at the farmers market. The other program is called the Healthy Incentives Program, or HIP, and that gives you between 40 to 80 extra dollars that you can use each month. That amount depends on your family size and your income, but those extra dollars can be used on fruits and vegetables at the farmers market. So it's a great way to save money, to stretch your money a little bit, to be able to spend on food. So you can see SNAP is an amazing program, an amazing resource available to people to give you a little bit of extra spending money on food that you can sort of combine with using a food pantry. So again, if you are in need of SNAP or have any questions about SNAP, definitely give CEOC a call or stop by, because we can totally help answer any questions that you have. You can go to the next slide, please. So if you're not familiar with CEOC, we wanted to just make sure you knew about the other services that we offer. So we have 2 food pantries. One of them is in North Cambridge on Ringe Ave, and the other one is in Central Square behind City Hall. And like I mentioned, we help with SNAP applications and recertifications, but we have lots of other different services that are available to you. So we help with health insurance, signing you up for health insurance, helping you switch to a different health insurance plan, answering questions that you have about health insurance. We also provide housing assistance. So if you need any help with pretty much anything related to housing, we can help you out with that, or at least point you in the right direction for how to get help. We help sign people up for other public benefits offered by the state and the federal government. And then maybe what we're most famous for is our free tax preparation service, which we start up in the spring. So if you meet certain income and residency requirements, we're able to prepare your taxes for free. And if you go to the next slide, we'll just put up our contact information. If you need to reach us after this webinar, if you have any questions that we don't get to, or if you want to stop by and see us, this is our information and our website. And these slides, I believe, will be sent out at the end of the webinar. But we are happy to take questions now.
All right, thank you, Rachel, for that wonderful presentation. I'll be fielding the questions and answers. We have one question, and that is, how can people get the HIP benefit? So
yeah, so the HIP benefit is something you automatically get if you have SNAP. So if you do not have SNAP, that would be the first step. Stop by and see us, and we can see if you're eligible for SNAP, and if so, we can help sign you up for that. And then you'll automatically have HIP dollars within your SNAP account. So each farmers market is a little bit different. I know at the Central Square Farmers Market, to be able to use your HIP dollars, you go and see the market manager, just stop by their tent, and they'll give you basically tokens to be able to use your HIP dollars. But at other farmers markets, it's just something automatic when you swipe your SNAP EBT card.
thank you, Rachel. Just going to encourage people to feel free to ask questions in the question and answer feature. I think that was the one question that we did receive. So if we're here, we're open and willing to answer any question. So feel free to ask them. The other thing is that I work at the Multi-Service Center, work closely with the CEOC, and encourage people to please use their local food pantries. It helps with people managing their budgets. Food is really expensive right now, so it is one way to be able to manage a budget if you're on a tight budget. Even if getting your staples and getting some of that in your home so that it's less expensive for the things you do need to buy at the supermarket. So encouraging that for people. Let me look at the question and answer. Okay.
Maria, while you're looking at that, we always say to people, come to the pantry first, see
Right.
what vegetables we have and what fruits, see what other special things we might have, and then make your grocery list for the store. If you can get eggs from us, then cross that off your grocery list, and you don't have to spend your money, and you can buy something else that maybe you couldn't get at the market. The same way with the farmers market and getting your extra money there. I always say, if you found $20 just lying around, you would pick it up because it's so important these days. And that's what I feel like with the food pantry and the farmers market. If you have SNAP, is it's free money. Take advantage of it. And it's your money, really.
Right. Good point.
Maria, I'm sorry to interrupt. I have a couple questions in the chat
Yeah.
that I can get to after you go through the questions in the QA, but just to give
Okay.
you a heads up.
Definitely. One of the questions is, where does the food pantry get the food?
Yeah, that's a good question. We get it from a few different places. So one of them is the Greater Boston Food Bank. And food bank and food pantry, I hear people use it interchangeably. So I actually didn't know the difference between a food bank and a food pantry until I started working here. A food bank is basically the big warehouse that distributes food to the food pantries, and the food pantries are where the clients or the patrons get their food. So some of our food comes from the Greater Boston Food Bank. We also get our produce from Food for Free, which is another local nonprofit. We get our meat from McKinnon's, which is a local business, and a lot of our canned goods and non-perishable foods we get from Prime Source, which is a food warehouse. Tina, I don't know if I missed anything.
Nope, you didn't miss anything. And just to let you know, the reason that we're able to provide food as well as the other pantries is the generosity of the city of Cambridge, which has funded the Cambridge Food Pantry Network for almost 35 years. And so they understand what it means for people to not have money to feed themselves or their family. And so every year the city has made the commitment to provide resources so that the pantries can purchase food for people to be able to get.
Thank you. Another question is, can undocumented people apply for SNAP?
That is a good question. I know there are some rules about eligibility based on immigration status. Tina, I don't know if you know the answer.
Yeah, so there definitely are some rules. The one thing that people often don't know is that even if a parent is undocumented, if their child is a citizen, they can get food stamps for the family. And there are lots of rules and guidelines around documentation and immigration status. So that would be definitely a reason to reach out to CEOC, and we can help walk you through it. You know, one of the other nice things about coming to CEOC to apply for SNAP is that we're able to do it online, and we have relationships with DTA. And so if you have a problem, we can pick up the phone and talk to somebody, and you don't have to hold on the phone for 15 minutes or an hour. We can get through on your behalf and get answers to question and fix mistakes. So definitely reach out and we can talk about someone's specific immigration status questions.
Thank you, Tina. Another question is are the pantries for Cambridge residents only?
No, so the pantries are open to anyone and everyone. Some of the pantries, including ours starting next week, will have you fill out kind of like a registration form or an intake form where they'll ask for things like your address and your family size and things like that. But that's just for our record keeping. There's no residency requirements at our pantries.
Thank you, Rachel. This also kind of asks a residency question, but it's, do you need to bring proof of residency or income when we arrive at a food pantry?
No, you do not.
Another question is identification. Oh, I think I missed it here. Somehow I missed it. I think it's this identification required. I'm not sure where my question disappeared to. Let me go on to the next one.
Sorry, Maria, I can read it. I accidentally pressed something.
Oh, okay.
The question is identification or proof of need required to get food from the food bank?
No, not required. So some of the other pantries might like ask for an ID in order to fill out your intake form, but that's not the norm and not a requirement at all.
And sometimes we may ask more questions for people that might be interested in something else, like applying for SNAP. Or so sometimes we'll ask people, do you have health insurance? And people can say, I don't want to answer that. But it's a way of us letting people know that we can help them with a lot of different things. Because if you put all of those things together, if the amount you pay for your medicine at the drugstore and the amount that you pay for health insurance, if we can reduce those things, then you have more money in your budget each month. So we may ask questions, but that's only to be able to offer help in other areas.
Okay, thank you, Tina. Another question is, can individuals donate food to a pantry?
Yes, so each pantry has probably a different system for accepting donations. At CEOC's food pantries, we just recommend that you call and you'll speak with our coworker Joseph, who will let you know if we're able to accept donations at that time, and he'll just make sure, you know, the food is not expired and is unopened and meets other food safety requirements. But yes, pantries do take donations.
Thank you, Rachel. Another question is, how often in 1 week can someone pick up food at the same location? So is someone able to go to the same location during the week?
Yep, yeah, so CEOC has 2 food pantries. Each of them are open twice a week, and you can go all 4 of those days if you need to. And I believe that's true at most of the other pantries as well. You can return as many days in the week as you need to.
Thank you. I think one question here, and I think we might have touched upon it, but I'm going to ask, it says, do you have to sign up to get into the food pantry? Okay.
Nope, you do not. We are doing a sort of a registration process starting next week. So while you're waiting for the food pantry, we may be asking you to fill out a brief form, or we'll have staff to help fill up that form out. But you don't need to sign up ahead of time or anything like that. So you just drop in when we're open.
So another question, I think we touched a little bit about it, but it's a little bit different. One of the question is, can Cambridge residents who don't have a social security card or legal status get food at the food pantry?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, no restrictions for who can get food at the food pantry.
Okay. Crystal, do you want me to read the chat questions, or?
I can give you a little break here.
All right.
Problem. One of the questions is, if you come to CEOC to get help, if seeing you're eligible for SNAP, do you need to bring any documents like pay stubs or taxes? So I guess it's, what kind of supporting documents do they need for SNAP?
Yeah, so oftentimes when you submit that initial application for SNAP, you don't need much beyond your ID and proof of income. But even if you don't have proof of income when you drop in to see us, you can submit your verification documents later on. And each case with SNAP is a little bit different. So after you submit your application, the SNAP office may then contact you and say, we now need you to submit this type of proof of income and this type of proof of residency. So it's all a little bit different, but when you come to us to apply, you can even just drop in without those documents and we can get your application started.
And another question regarding SNAP, does SNAP have any effect on buying a house later on?
No, I don't believe it does.
Those were all that I saw, Maria. Did you get all the ones in the QA box?
I think, yeah, I think I got all the ones in the QA. I think there is one that's, I think, asking, how do I find a food pantry nearby? But I think there's going to be the resource guide is going to be sent or emailed to everyone. And hopefully that person can look at their location and see what's nearby.
Yes, everybody will receive the recording and they will receive the follow-up resource guide from Cambridge Motion Public Health Department. And then I wanna give a shout out to my buddy Brad, who's letting us know that for all the farmers market benefits, people can always go to the check-in table. That's the market manager as the first step to get information about each farmers market and the benefits there. So don't be shy. You can head up to that tent.
And I think there's a question about is there a less busy time over at the North Cambridge Food Pantry? But I think it's a wonderful food pantry, so I can see why it's busy. I think, Tina, that's listed, the times are listed in the resource.
They are, and that was the question that I saw that we didn't get to that I wanted to answer. And you're exactly right. It can be busy at different times. One thing I wanted to say for both pantries is that people often come an hour or 2 hours before the pantry opens. And I think sometimes it's because they feel like the pantry may run out of food. And I always feel bad, especially when it's really hot outside or it's raining, to have people waiting. Sometimes when I come to work in Central Square, the pantry opens at 10, and at 7:30, sometimes people are already in line. And I want to say, you don't have to do that. In fact, the wait is usually less later on in when the pantry is open. So you don't have to come early and wait. You're welcome to if you'd like to, but you don't have to. And the other thing is that we will talk to Brad about making a change, but at our Inman Square location, the hours are shorter than they really are now, what shows in the food resource guide. We've extended the hours so that people don't, I always say, imagine if you had to go to the grocery store between 2 and 4 on Tuesdays or 1 to 6 on Thursday, and that was your only time to shop. That wouldn't work. So we're trying as much as possible to expand the hours that we're open so it fits more people's schedule. But it's hard to say when the line is the longest.
I'm going to, thank you, Tina. I'm going to interrupt one more time. I did see, so there are questions in the chat, and I apologize if that wasn't clear. The QA box is really where we needed the questions, but I do see that there is a question in Spanish. So if the Spanish speaking interpreter, if you could, Enrica, if you can switch into the English, so you should be able to switch from Spanish. Oh, perfect. If you could, do you have access to the chat? Okay.
Sorry, for people who are not able to come to this conversation.
Yeah, Krista? I don't know if I've actually lost Crystal in the midst of this, or if they're just trying to figure out what the question is in Spanish.
Yes, yeah. So even if you didn't go to this
Right.
webinar, you're still welcome to come to the pantry. And this webinar is being recorded. So if you know someone who couldn't make it today, but they want to hear this information, you can share the recording with them after it's sent out. But this coming to the webinar today was not a requirement for visiting the food pantry.
Right. And I think, again, like the resources are there, the food banks are out there. You know, this is to sort of get the information out so that people can make the best decisions for themselves and visit our local food banks. And, you know, because they are there, they're a great resource. And so putting it out there for people to follow through and do and go. And with the COC, it's not just the food bank, they have other resources as well. And I think that it is sort of a wonderful connection to have and to meet with the staff there about any of the things that they listed in their resources. One of the other things that I kind of want to put out there is that in addition to the COC, the multi-service centers available, we work in collaboration and people are welcome to come here. We can also assist with SNAP applications if someone is interested in applying for SNAP. Again, we're a collaboration in the city of Cambridge, working together, trying to serve our residents and provide as much service as we can through our agencies. Let me see if Marlise is able to connect with me. It does not look that way. I think we are on our own. Okay, so I see that the slide has come out and this is the contact information. So I want to thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Tina, for spending this afternoon, giving us all this wonderful information about the food pantry and the savings and how to reach them, how to go to a food pantry, how to access a food pantry, how to get the food. And I want to thank Marlise West and Crystal Rosa for the back end helping me through the slides and the language line. So I think we are just about finished here and want to thank everyone and have a very great afternoon, everyone. Enjoy your day.
Maria, there was one more question I saw
Oh, sorry. Okay, did I miss?
that asked about if I don't want to pick up food, can I come to the pantry to get a grocery store gift card?
Oh, in the chat. Okay, go ahead.
And we have had the grocery store gift cards more. They are a donation that we receive. So sometimes we have them and we distribute them during pantry sessions, but we don't always, we can never predict when we will have gift cards. So we don't have ones to just distribute. But sometimes when you do come to the pantry, you may leave with the bags of food that Rachel talked about, as well as a gift card.
Thank you, Tina, for noticing that question. I don't think there's any other questions that were missed. But again, if we missed your question, you feel free to contact the CEOC, the numbers on the screen, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer your questions. Again, thank you all for joining us, being part of this discussion. Please enjoy your afternoons. Have a good day. I'm not quite sure how to.
I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna give the interpreters a time to catch up, but you're all free to go.
Okay.
All right, I'm ending it now.
Okay.